Hello and good evening. Thanks for taking time out of your busy schedule to join us. My name is George Dosu Doyen, your usual host for the Security Awareness Forum. I already have in the studio with me Mr. Maxwell Caleb Norty Newman. Is a certified uh, is a certified forensic professional, as well as he's a head of a financial is a head of forensic for one of the financial agencies in the country, Ghana, as well as Mr. Ahantam Apiminiba Kofi the Third has also joined us. He is a law enforcement officer within one of the security agencies in Ghana. We have them in the studio today to talk about your personal safety in the era of technology. We'll be diving into the key things that will make you stand out to stay aware in these security threat environment. But before we dive straight, before I go to our guest to begin the session, we would first of all commence by introducing you to some of the environmental security threats. And then collectively, with a resource person, we will look at how best we can mitigate some of these threats that the environment we live in will be posed to us. Without delaying and going straight into our discussion today, I would start by saying that personal security is one of the things that we must take paramount, especially in the era that we find ourselves in. Due to lack of employment opportunities across the continent of Africa and other factors, we have a lot of criminals, being it within the internet space or within our physical environment, people willing to take advantage of the least error or mistake you make. And on this show today, we'll be looking at how to mitigate some of those things, especially to stay aware in this era. One of the security threats that is in our environment today is the introduction of technology. Most importantly, I will focus on technologies like what I'm about to share with you. That is the introduction of simple yet sophisticated weapons. For those of us that work within certain corporations and depending on the environment that you work in,
I'm going to fold it back.
introduction of such simple weapons that have infiltrated into the continent of Africa. And so, most often, for those of us that are the VVIPs that attend functions, especially because we are in the era of election, I'm referring to Ghana and other parts in Africa, there is that critical. It is important that all of us would begin to pay key attentions to individuals that may be threat to us by identifying and profiling, identify some of these and some of the other introduction of weapons that has found into the continent
I'll put it
is
back in.
something like this, which is a very this is a rifle that actually was concealed in a very
I'll put
tiny
it back
box.
in.
This person enter into our world, into our office, into other places, without weapons like this, but they may use them in our offices.
अच्छा
One
ये
of them
देखिए ये पेन पिस्टल है ठीक है।
identify
अब
as
इस
the
पर जो है
pen
ना
gun.
फायर
The
करते हैं
pen
तो आप
gun is as
देखेंगे इसका
effective as
बैक किस
any
तरह
other
है।
gun
अब
once it
इसका
is
तरीका
aimed
ये है
well at the
कि इसको
spot
जो है ना
that it has to
इस
go.
तरह घुमा
Now,
के ना
these are sample of the
ठीक
technology
है,
and the
ये इसका
hardware
बॉडी है
technologies that
पच्चीस
has
वोल्ट
found its
ठीक
ways
है।
onto
इसको
the
डाल
continent
के
of Africa,
ठीक है,
and all of us
ये
must
नीचे
stay
वाला चीज़
alert.
जो है ना ये
One of the
निकालना
other
है
things
फायरिंग
that
वाला
we
ठीक
need
है।
to also talk about is
फिर
the
इसको दोबारा जो
introduction
है ना
of
बंद करें
technologies that enable criminals to easily have access to your vehicle.
ठीक है। अब ये बंद
One
हो
of
गया हाँ।
such technology which is
अब इसको
available over the
लोड किस
internet
तरह
space
करना है
that
ना,
all of you can purchase
इस तरह कर दिया।
is a simple technology used to unlock car doors. So if you're using one of the latest cars with the best electronics and you park your car somewhere, the chances that you have someone with a very simple device, just like the size of your mobile phone, that could be following you. Just after you have parked your car, you might see someone following you. What the person is doing is copying the codes, transferring the codes in your car key into this simple device, which in turn, once you are gone, the person is able to swipe the device around your car door, and because it is electronic, the car door opens automatically. If you are unlucky and your car happens to be pushed to start in terms of your engine, then it means that your car can be started and then it can be taken away, which means it's been stolen. There have been instances, as a matter of fact, I think 2 years ago in Ghana at the Palace Mall, someone was arrested in possession of that weapon, that technology, which he was using to access cars that are parked there, the vehicle. But unfortunately, or fortunately for the car owner, this person was apprehended. Again, there have been instances where somebody says that I have my car, I have GPS trackers in my car, and so once it's even taken away, I can easily find the location of that car. As a matter of fact, coming from the operations department, one of the things we have realized is that we have some criminals that have procured what we call jammers. The function of a jammer is to disable signals within a specific jurisdiction or a location once it fits within that range. And so we have criminals that have procured jammers just to disable some of these signals that may be coming off your vehicle. So even though you think you have a 2 jammer, 3 jammer, or 1 jammer in your vehicle, there's a possibility that these criminals may procure what we call a jammer to jam the system where it doesn't transmit data or information to your phone or to your laptop. And so what it means is that your car has been stolen, and because these persons have used a jammer, is unable to send signal to any of your devices for you to read exactly where your vehicle is. And so once they get to their destination, what we have gathered is that they use what we call the bug detector to detect where you have where the signal is coming from in terms of the GPS tracker, and they're able to remove it. And from there, they can dismantle your car or send your car to a different country where it is sold on the market. One other thing that especially it is also relevant to us in the current dispensation that we are in is the ability for criminals to copy your Visa card or your MasterCard using other devices. There have been reports where people have tempered with the POS devices used in receiving payments, where they have done clones or things behind it, where people, when they make payment with Visa card, there have been reports where their details has been captured, which in turn is being sold to people in the black market. I believe that our colleague, Mr. Maxwell Norte Newman, working with a financial institution, will be able to enlighten us more on that. If I may move on before finally going to him. Again, one of the other things that has also been noticed, especially in the era that we are in, is photocopies of our ID cards and our voters card, with a Ghana card, with your passport. There have been reports, significant reports from other agencies where we have people registering other people's, registering SIM cards with other people's ID cards, where they have literally no idea about that ID card or whatever it's being used for. It is important that most often when we are doing photocopies, or we ask that these identities be printed for us in any way or form, it is important that we make sure that we either delete, or make sure we receive all the copies, and make sure that if you send it to the person on it's on a pen drive and the person printed it, it is important that you stand by the person's machine so that the person can clear the soft copy and make sure it is also deleted from the recycle bin as well. These are some of the security threats that are hovering around us. Again, I will not talk without mentioning what we call hit and run. Again, if you go to the shores of Botswana, Kabware, Palape, other part of Zimbabwe, and even in recent time Ghana, we realize that there are certain times within the day where we have people genuinely, people who are either robbers or people who want to pick something from your car. They may approach you requesting you to kindly give them money, but in the end, they are spying your vehicle, and then at that end, you realize that they dip their hands into your vehicle and take your bags or whatever and run away with it. There have been indications or reports where we have travelers. They have these criminals throwing egg in front of the shield, the car, where it is, where immediately they throw the eggs and the egg bags from, on your windshield. Once you attempt to use the wiper to clean that, it means that you are going to black out, which means that your vision is going to be blurred based on the look and then the combination. Once that happens, then you are forced to stop because you can't see the road ahead. And once that happens, you have the criminals now trooping in and making sure that they make a way, either take your vehicle, rob you of your vehicle, or all your belongings, and then you find yourself stranded. I think that once the discussion is going on, we look at how best we can mitigate some of these environmental threats to stay safe, especially in this era. Now, moving straight into the studio, I have in the studio with me, as I mentioned earlier on, Mr. Caleb Nortey Newman. And so I would want to start from Mr. Caleb Nortey Newman, who is the head of forensic for one of the foreign banks in Ghana. I want to start with him. What are some of the security threats within the financial sector, especially for we civilians, and then how best can we mitigate some of these threats? Thank you.
Good. Thank you for having me. Today, in the era that we find ourselves, card fraud and cybercrime is lurking around. And card fraud and cybercrime is the thing on the line, and everyone is trying to trying to perpetrate fraud with regards to card fraud and cyber fraud. What is card fraud? Card fraud is simply the use of cards to perpetrate fraud against victims. How do these perpetrators or criminals perpetrate fraud using card fraud? Listeners, I'll urge you to, if you have your cards with you, kindly take and let's do an example. Look at your card very well. On your card, you have a 16-digit number. The 16-digit card number is a full card number that you use. On your card, you also have your full name. On your card, you have your expiry date. Behind your card, you have your CVV. As I mentioned these things, as you look at it, realize that these are the information that is needed to do a transaction online. So today, if we are not careful, what will happen is just a shot of your card, the front page, the front side of your card, and the back of your card, it is good to go. You can do any transaction if you have this information without having the card, the physical card with you, for you to go and even use it at the ATM. Today in Africa, we have card frauds like card not present fraud, where we have online frauds that are perpetrated against people. And the online fraud that are perpetrated against people, they use their card information. So you ask yourself that, how do they get the card information? Many a times ask yourself, when you go to the washing bay, what do you normally see? What we normally see is that people, because they use their cards in the glove compartment of their cars. Do you take your days? Do you make sure that you keep your card safe at all times? Immediately I get information on your card, then it is good to go. I may use it against you. I may use it. It's easy to buy things online, and I'll be served. I'll be served. I'll get my things, but I'll use your information to get the things that I want. So on daily basis, ask yourself, how do you keep your car safe? Where do you keep them? You leave them. When you go to these POS machines, you enter your P, or you just be there and then your signature is allowed and everything goes away. When you do that, you are at risk. The risk is that people can take all your money in your account. POS is limitless. Also, when we are doing online transactions, that one is limitless. Take note that if you go to the ATM and we are going to cash money from the ATM, that has a limit. So even if your card is cloned, it has a limit. And if we are able to know the limit, it reduces the fraud that will be perpetrated against individuals. So that is it. As we talk on the line, we will mention what we have to do to make sure that we keep our cards safe. We remain safe in the card fraud world. Today, an Australian report reports that increasingly internet fraud is very high and cybercrime is on the high. Last week we mentioned that fraud by its nature is clandestine. Fraud is hidden. So since fraud is hidden, the traditional frauds that we have, that we go into the banks and we go into people to perpetrate fraud to steal their money, they will want to go very much away from the fraud. So they will want to sit in the comfort of their homes, mask an IP, and do a transaction. So cyber fraud by its nature will continue to increase in this era that we find ourselves. Internet is becoming a very dangerous place for people. And it's a haven for pedophiles, for bullies, for trolls, and hackers. Identity theft is one of the fastest growing crimes in the world, and the internet provides another outlet for one of the worst traits of humankind. The capacity is becoming very vicious and cruel. So we need to stay alert and be vigilant in everything that we do. Financial inequality, as it were, if you don't take care, it will become an issue, and that may trigger to a social unrest. The threats of our environment is becoming increasingly high, and our personal safety is very, very important in this era that we find ourselves. So crucial that we take our personal safety as something that we ourselves are responsible for. Personal safety is very critical. If we ourselves don't take security very serious in the era we find ourselves, before you know, you realize that you have become a victim for fraud in all areas. I pause here to for other presenters so that when it gets to what to do to make sure that we are safe in the card world, what we should to do to make sure that we are safe in the cyber world, then I'll share my views. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Maxwell. But even before you go, quick one. Let me ask some few questions for our listeners here. With respect to the ability for people to either to 1 meter distance, there have been reports within social media and other platforms where we have people demonstrating that even within a 1 meter distance or 3 step or 2 step distance, there are these devices that are able to read and copy your the information in your Visa card or MasterCard remotely. How possible is that?
In my experience as a banker, we have not come across experienced it in our part of the world. But when you look at areas like South Africa, when you look at areas like UK and other areas, they have devices that can be used to touch on your wallet, your back pocket, and they get your visa information, and they clone the card and use it against you. However, in Ghana, we have not received any of these things. That is why we need to keep our cards safe so that we don't wait for these things to happen to us before we learn from the mistakes that are happening elsewhere. History speaks to the future, and since history speaks to the future, and our experience shows that if today crime is perpetrated in other areas of our world, before you know, it has trickled down to Africa. That is why we must stay alert and we need to continue to be vigilant in everything that we do.
Okay, so again, how does one, me as a banker with my Visa card or my MasterCard, how do I protect my Visa card or any of my banking cards from being copied? Because we live in a global village, and once a technology is being used in one country, it's just a matter of time where we have people procuring and using them in a different country as well. We are not only looking at the case of Ghana, but the case of Africa. And so you mentioned South Africa, which is also part of Africa, which means that if it is happening in the southern part, we those at the west, the east, we would be showing concern. Now, we have had things where a device like what we call the RFID, what do you call it? An FID pouch, which is more used to protect our Visa card and ID card. What we are told to believe is that once you put your Visa card in there or your MasterCard in there, it is difficult for them to use any of these machines to be able to copy remotely your information. Now, aside this, first of all, if you have heard about these RFID protection pouch, and then number two, if yes, is it reliable? Number two, if not, are there any other things that you can, any other means that you can share with us so we can protect our Visa cards and MasterCards?
One thing that we need to take note of is that our cards that we use is just like a check. So we need a question that we need to ask ourselves is how do I treat my checks? Do I leave my checks just unattended to for people to pick the checks? And before you know, these cards have become like a blank check where you have signed the check. How many of us will take our checks and sign the check and put it down and say that go and write cash and write any amount on the check? That is like our card. The reason why I'm saying it's like our card is that information that I just mentioned with regards to card fraud, you realize that you have those information here with you. And since you have the information here with you, how do you treat your cards? It is so important that we take charge of our cards, keep it safe, keep it away from people. That is the best thing that we can do. Another thing that we need to do is that we need to make sure that since we are in a technological world and most of us, our account information is on our phones, let's ensure that we are very close to know what goes on the account because the card fraud world and what we realize is that they operate on weekends and very early in the mornings. If you don't take care and you don't pay close attention to your accounts, there are times you will not receive the alerts. If you see anything that is untoward today, you can block the account, you can block the card on the accounts that you have yourself. Also, you can call the customer service line immediately for them to block your cards. That is the first thing and things that we can do to make sure that we block our cards and we keep safe in the card world. Again, like we are saying that it's like a blank check, let's know where to keep the cards. At times we keep the cards in our glove compartment in our cards. And since we keep the card in the glove compartment in our cards, before you know, people will have access to the cards when they are washing the cards. And when they wash the cards, today we have all smartphones all around. And since we have smartphones all around, before you know, your card is captured when you never know who captured the information on your card and they will use it against you. So it means that we all need to take our personal safety very serious and know where we put our cards every now and then. If we do that, we will remain safety in the world that we find ourselves. Also, what we have also realized is that people use their pins, and the pins that they use, it is close to their date of birth. It is close to any information that is with you. And today we go through Facebook, and people have written their security information on Facebook. So when I go to George Dosudoyan, the question I need to ask myself is if I go to your page, will I be able to know your date of birth? and ask yourself, if I know your date of birth, yes, and I know your year of birth, then ask yourself, are you using the year of birth and or any day of the date of your birth, that is the day and the month, as your PIN to withdraw money from your account? If that is what you are doing, you are at risk because you have exposed your date of birth to the public and you are using this same information as your PIN for your card. And if you do that, then it is risky. Anyone who gets hold of your card can go and go to the ATM and cash money. Can use your information every now and then, and that will not be good on your part because you have not taken your personal safety very serious.
Thank you very much, Mr. Maxwell Caleb Norte Newman. Now I go to Ahantan Apimehinipa Kofi III. He's a law enforcement officer. So he would want to share with us, especially from the domestic perspective. Mr. Maxwell have taken us to the financial world. Now let's hear from Mr. Ahantan. First of all, he being a police officer or he being a law enforcement officer, what are some of the environmental security threats that has come to his attention? And again, what are some of the solutions to it? Mr. Ahantan.
So, good evening, and yes, it's good to be on the show once again. I can see Agbeshi on the show, right? Yes.
Yes.
So Agbeshi and I, we are mates. So we are the same. We are mates. So, and
yes.
Well, did you decide? Did you intentionally decide to bring us together or what? Looks like.
I'm sure it is fate.
Right. So, and I've also seen Mr. Is it Mr. Newman or Mr. Norte?
Mr. Maxwell Norte Newman.
Mr. Yes. Maxwell Norte. All right. So, so good evening to your viewers and listeners. Yeah, the environment where I am is not a bit distant. So I've decided to be off the camera a little bit, but I believe you can hear my voice.
You are very loud and clear.
That's fine. So that's good. So he has spoken much about financial security but then it's much more about your physical security first. If you have a physical security, that's where you get money. And then you put it in the bank, then somebody will be able to or can be able to or can steal it. But if you don't have a physical security, you'll not even get the money and put it in the bank in the first place. But I think I've also gotten some much more interesting perspectives from Mr. Norte. Usually when I put my card there and I leave it at the washing bay, I just leave my wallet and everything in it. Anyway, there's no money in my wallet anyway. I don't really put money in my wallet, but it's much more about the card, and then every card of mine is found in the wallet. So I also got some interesting perspective from what he said. But physical security is much more important, both at home, workplace, environment, wherever you are working. And the world is changing, and the dynamisms in physical security. Today, even guns are becoming much more smaller and smaller and smaller. We have seen situations whereby pens are even guns. And if somebody wants to dispatch you to your ancestors, that person does not need to carry AK-47 around these days.
Exactly.
That person does not need to carry AK-47 around these days. And so with just a pen in hand. Okay, right. So very good. Good. So as we can see on the screen, that person can easily dispatch you to your ancestors. And so it keeps changing. And maybe because I am a security risk professional and I spend much of my time training people on security risk management, I'm much more concerned about risk and awareness and threats. And so for me, the first thing to physical security is to be aware of your immediate threat in your environment. Immediate threat in your environment. And threats vary. So that's what those of us who are in security risk management, we say that your threshold might be different from that of another person. But so long as you're in the environment, you've got to be very much conscious about the happenings around you. And it could be anything, even the pickpocketing. They are changing the style now. They are changing the style now. Usually it used to be one person following you. Now another person will intentionally bump into you and say, sorry. And by the time that person passes, the one passing behind has done whatever he or she wants to do to you. And so it keeps changing. And it is much more about the kind of information we also need to put out in the society. You know, the alert, the security alert. Sadly, here in our part of the world, we don't raise alert on emerging crimes. We don't raise alert on emerging crimes, robbery, murder, pickpocketing, and all types of crime. We don't raise alert on them. So people are just working. And I mean, this is our country, Ghana. And we are fine with it. We are okay with it. We are okay with it because, but these are the things that will enhance physical security. Because if a person is working in an environment and a person knows that, look, where you are working in the environment, you are likely to be attacked with your car. You know how to operate within that environment. When you are working in an environment and you have much information that in this environment, pickpocketing is on the rise. You know how to operate. When you are working in an environment and you know that this area, you are likely to be kidnapped, people know how to operate. So the point is that nobody teaches us security from the one. We are natural human beings with instincts. And we respond to security by natural instincts. And so once you know...
Sorry to interrupt there, but you mentioned, you touched on a very important subject, which is in Africa, it is difficult for individuals like civilians to report petty crime like pickpocketing and other ones to law enforcement. In your view, what or why is it discouraging for people to report such petty crimes?
Yeah, so
is it that law enforcement have not made available proper structures, or do the people feel that these are petty crimes? If I report to the police service, they might even laugh at me, or is that the case?
No, you see, all over the world, not only in Africa, one very crime phenomena that is so difficult to deal with is pickpocketing. It's pickpocketing. Why is it? Because usually the people who are engaged in pickpocketing, they are the people that are described, quote unquote, the junkie ones. The junkie. And so those people, they are flooded on the streets, and they need the money for drugs or anything. And sometimes the thing they pick, the things they pick, they are too small. They are too small. And look, I had a situation here in Medina, and iPhone. What is the latest iPhone? They said, I'm not into iPhone, but I don't know the latest version.
I think it should be 15 Pro Max or 14 Pro Max. I'm sure it's 15. Yes.
A guy took an iPhone 15 Pro Max and went and sold it at 50 cedis.
Just because he needed the money. The phone is not his. He doesn't know the value of it. He needed the money for something else, I guess.
And if you look at that guy, when the guy was brought, and that guy needs to be at the rehab. He needs to be at the rehab. He doesn't need to be at the police station.
Okay.
The guy doesn't need to be at the police station. And so it's one crime that, so what others do in other parts of the world is that they give alert, they issue alert constantly. They issue alert to create awareness that, look, where you find yourself, you are likely to be, so that keep your property safe. Keep your property safe. But it's one crime that, like I've said, is very difficult to manage, because the people who are involved are not people that the state would want to spend a lot of resources prosecuting such people. that person.
So I think that Your submission is very clear there.
Yeah.
Before I go to Mr. Agbesi, I'm still on you, Mr. Ahanta. My question is that we've experienced what we call identity fraud, where we have people using the identity of other people to do other fraudulent activities. We have instances in the past where we have people picking the identity of other people and selling it to individuals within the criminal organization. In the past, used to register SIM cards and other things. I'm sure, as a law enforcement officer, some of these cases might have come to your desk before yourself and Mr. Agbesi. The reason why I am actually on you and Ms. Agbesi on these aspects is because it's something that is relevant in today's world that we are in. Why? Especially from the operations department, we realize that most often when we are conducting investigations, especially contact tracing investigations, someone who have been involved in one fraud or the other, we realize that most often in the case of where you are contact tracing, the person who perpetrated the crime is somewhere in the prison already, and he is in the prison committing the crime. Once we are doing the contact tracing, the SIM number is using is registered on in another person's name, an ID card. And so you have law enforcement personnel going to arrest the wrong person because the person registered the SIM card. And most often, these people do not even know that a SIM card was or has been registered in their name. My question is now, in such situations, first of all, does that situation exist per your experience? Number two, if it exists in such situation, what should we, those of us who like to photocopy our ID cards, send our ID cards to other people, and for those of us who are looking for job and the requirement is that we attach any of our ID cards to it, is it safe for us to be doing that?
Yeah, yes, identity fraud. Identity fraud is not new. It's not new. It's been with us since, Adam. And maybe because I'm a police officer, so sometimes I do not want to blame people too much, but you can always verify and check. You can always verify and check. So you can always, and the rate at which people are so, people rush into believing these things sometimes marvels me. However, some of the techniques are very sophisticated. Very sophisticated. There was a time I personally almost landed into one, and I had to send emails elsewhere to verify the background until the people sent me the right information that look, we are not that entity. And so, but I do not want to blame people. Maybe because I'm a security person, I have the background, so I easily get away with it all the time. And I'm also not so much enthused about financial attractions. Anything that is about financial this thing, I'm not very quick to go into it. Now, you spoke about phone cards or phone numbers that are being used by people in prisons. I have had that experience. I have personally had that experience, and I was able to trace the person and got to know the person was in prison or is in prison, and so that is possible. And also as to whether another person's phone number can be used in this modern time. It's possible, but I still sometimes I do not want to. Sometimes when I wrap my head around it, I do not get what it means, because at this age and time, the way and manner the Media Commission, the National Media Commission went about registering SIM cards. It has to be your own fingerprint. It has to be your own photo. It has to be whatever that it is. The information is there. So how did another person get registered in your name? And how did another person get access to you? But this is Africa. This is Africa, and technology can easily be manipulated. So I do appreciate that fact. And we have actually had situations like that. But what I want to say is that you must always try to verify and cross-check the identity of somebody you are engaging with. Somebody you are engaging with all the time. A business person, a business owner, ordinary person, whether, please just try and then try to verify and cross-check who you are dealing with all the time. All right.
Okay, good. Mr. Agbesi, your perspective, please. We can't hear you. Can you check? We can't hear you.
Okay. Am I on now?
Yes, you are on.
Okay. Once again, good evening. And then grateful to be on the show once again. I think Mr. Hunter have said it all. The SIM card fraud as is common in Ghana now. Except I just ended it. I'm amazed how recently we just finished mass registration of SIM card, but yet we still have issues, or we still have people registering SIM in other people's name. Recently, somebody in prison used another person's SIM to commit a lot of crime. Then during our investigation has end up, and then the two actually they were in two different prisons, but that's what they were doing. But what I realized was that they were able to get those SIM through those who were keeping them. So at the end, we managed to put them like additional years for them. But at the end, the judge asked that those officers who involved or indulged themselves in that act should be investigated again and then reprimanded. So for this area of technology, it is very common that we must be careful of whatever we do. We must be sure of whatever we do, especially the SIM registration. As Kofi have just said, we need to look. To me, in my own perspective, we need to look at it that regard again. But technology is very broad, so in as much as that you are also trying to cover up, someone is also somewhere fishing out how to break your system. That is it. Then another thing that I would like to talk about is of late that child pornography. What I mean is that I don't mean that they use children, the people use their children over, but when you put your children picture on social media, people pick them and use it to do different things that may affect them. So that's what I will plead with people or urge people not to be too enthused about adding, be happy and be putting their kids' pictures on social media. No. Ghana is one of the countries where child pornography, children's pictures have been taken from and used for such purpose. We have to be careful on how we will be happy and small time putting our children's pictures on social media. Today, technology is advancing, so you think you just put it there and then for you, I have a baby or my baby is 2 years, this, that. By the end, you are endangering that picture. Sometimes it may one day hurt that child, but you may don't know today that your action and inaction today have caused that thing. That's one thing. Then I'm coming to the perspective of human trafficking too. In era of technology, they are using most of this. Now they don't even come in person. They don't even come in person. So your security will not be sure when you see when you receive messages from such people. You just have to be careful, because as Kofi has said, that your physical security is most important, and then around it you must extend it to the tech world too, so that you may not be caught up. You may not be surprised how people will lure you, because they have access to your information that they will use one day, and then you will have to pay for it. That's how
Yes.
you have to pay for it.
Thank you very much, Mr. Agbesi, for your submission. Sorry for the short technical challenges we faced as a result of things beyond our control. I think there are a few questions from our viewers and listeners here, and I would want to read out. And so, this goes to Mr. Maxwell Caleb Norty Newman. He says that I have been shopping through Alibaba for some years now, and so far I have not encountered any issues using my credit card. But recently I have come across some other shopping platform, and I intend shopping there as well. Mr. Newman, how can I tell if this platform is credible and safe for business, especially when the use of the credit card is involved? Thank you.
These shopping online and all that has become a haven also for criminals. So what it means is that you have to do your checks very well before you put your information out there. And as you put your information out there, ask them, how do you share the information? When you are giving, you are going to trade on the online and all that, what do you do? If you're also shopping online, what are some of the platforms that you go to and all that? It becomes very difficult, very important that we trust our instincts. One, awareness is also very key in our area. So before you shop online, make sure that you do all your checks before you shop online. If you do that, that will help you to know whether that platform is credible or not. Because most people use that as a bait to defraud people. So it means that we
Okay.
need to stay very vigilant.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Caleb Norty Newman, for that submission. That is also to say that if you're watching us or listening to us, you can please leave your comment or your questions under the comment section, and then I will read it out to our guests for them to have them answered. I see that question was coming from Mr. Basiru Ibrahim. I would want to quickly share this information with our viewers and listeners, that kindly do share the link of the program to your profile, just so colleagues, friends, loved ones can also join in and ask their question. Most importantly, they can be informed of what is happening around us. I think our time is almost up, and then we do have some few technical issues at the production end. I think we just have 9 minutes. I'll take Mr. Agbesi, who is a law enforcement officer, especially focusing on children. I would want to take his final word, something that our viewers and listeners can take home from him. And so kindly be thorough for us within the next 2-3 minutes. Ms. Agbesi, your final words to our viewers listening, especially on child trafficking, on human trafficking.
Okay, thank you very much. And then what I would like our viewers to take home or take serious notice of is, as I said earlier on about the child pornography, and how people are now picking up children's picture from the net and use it to do other dubious things. You know, so immediately you put the picture there, you have no much control over it again. Until you delete, even if you delete it, it can still be people can still have access to it because of technology they are having. And a lot of people or parent or guidance are not aware of this. That when you put picture there, children, those pictures can be used to do a lot of things that may hurt the child. I have to suggest to them that don't just don't just be happy and all the time. Oh, I have this, and then you put your kids' picture on social media for maybe for the world to know. Please be careful when doing those things. Now, when it comes to human trafficking, now most people will follow up a link that there's a job in the diaspora, the overseas. Then they'll follow up and then they end up being trafficked. You have been here. The person may not even come down. They may not even have an agent in Ghana. But through technology, you can be trafficked. There's a typical example where a nurse was following up of one of those sites and she ended up being trafficked at the end of it. And then sometimes it takes the work of IOM to in a collaboration of police and us to repatriate those or to bring those back to Ghana. So what I want to, in short, we must all be careful of whatever we are doing in the internet with or in the net, so that we may not find ourselves wanting one day. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Agbesi, for your submission. Let me quickly go to Mr. Ahanta Opem-Hiniba, the Kofi the for your final submission.
Yeah, also, like I said earlier, physical security is been with us. The threat has been with us from day one. It keeps changing from the very first day that you were born to the last day that you exit the world. I think there was an article I read that by the time you exit the world, you might have survived 38 attempts of being murdered. And so it means that every day, there's some form of threat lurking around. Let's just look at what happened at the East Legon, the accident that happened at East Legon. Those ladies, the guys, they had no idea they were going to die. They had no idea. So, wherever you find yourself, scan your environment. Wherever you find yourself, scan your environment immediately. Scan your environment. Could a vehicle run over this ramp to us here? Can this tree fall over us? Can this happen to us? Can somebody attack us with a knife? Can we be attacked by armed robbers? Can we be pickpocketed? So scan your environment. That's what I would say. Much more, all that I would say is that whatever you find, because from day one, you are a natural being, a natural instinct. And so you have that natural instinct that some of us, when you are going into a very wrong environment, you begin to feel goosebumps on your skin. The hair on your body begin to rise. It means that you are getting into a wrong environment. So you are very sensitive. And that is the beginning of security. So you naturally respond to a threat. You naturally respond to insecurity. But unfortunately for many of us, we walk into it, even when our intuitions has given us the right signals. So all that I would say is that scan your environment and know the kind of threats that are available to you so that you know how to manage your personal security. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your submission. I will take my final word from Mr. Maxwell Caleb Norty Newman, especially within the financial sector. What your final words to your viewers and listeners?
Internet provides an endless opportunity to meet people all over the world. The use of common sense is very, very critical to us. Let's not be swept away into the fantasy of the world, but the reality is to use caution. Do not share out personal details, photographs, or any other information that would be used to identify you, family, or where you live. Do not take people on the face value. They may not be what they seem. Never arrange to meet someone if someone you've only ever previously met on the internet without telling a friend or giving them as much information of the person where you are going to meet and all that. Also, when you are on the internet, do not open an attachment or download a file unless you know and trust the person who has sent it. Never respond directly to anything you find disturbing when using the internet or email. Log off and report it. Like we are saying, security is you, and you need to stay alert, and awareness is your best defense. Like Mr. Kofi said, trust your instincts. Trust your instincts. Trust your instincts. If you think something is wrong, act on it. Have your keys available when you are getting home and you are getting to your car. It will make it smarter. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much to Mr. Maxwell Caleb Norte Newman for your final submission. And thanks to the rest of the team for taking time to join the session today. And to our viewers, we're grateful you took time out of your busy schedule to join this very important education. Please do remember to share with your colleagues, your loved ones, so just they could also benefit. Take time to also invite people to like our page. These will afford them the opportunity to also get to enjoy some of these things that we share with you. Now, if you have any topic or any area that you think the Security Awareness Forum team should look into and have that education brought to you on one of these Saturdays, please don't hesitate to get in touch with us, especially through the contact details that is being scrolling under this video. You can always get in touch and then we would listen in and then have a topic around that and we can discuss it. And so now I wish you all the best. And then until we meet again next week, please do enjoy the rest of your evening.
Thank you very much.
Welcome.